So, you're already recording, right?
It's recording.
So we're just going to dive into
25 Sleighs of Christmas.
25 Sleighs of Christmas. Chasing Johnny's 25 Sleighs of Christmas, because it's our list. So
that's true. It is our 25 Sleighs of Christmas.
I like horror myself, so we decided instead of doing the traditional, happy family holiday movies, we would do horror movies that are Christmas themed, in and around Christmas time. Some of them are going to be a stretch, but there's just some that are just too terrible that I was like, nah, we can't do those ones.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's been a ride so far, for sure. There's been ups and downs just this week alone.
Just this week alone, yeah. We did 6, because it's December 6th right now. Just, some of them been alright. Some of them is like, that's okay. I could watch this again, I guess, if I had to. But some of them been terrible, man.
Well,
terrible. Terrible.
Let's start at the beginning.
So start at the beginning.
That was.
I think because we watched them differently.
I think we might have flip flopped them. Did you watch Pooka first?
I watched Pooka first.
See, I watched Pooka second. So we can do either one you want first.
Let's start with Pooka.
Okay. So I want to get my shit with Pooka out of the way so that you can enlighten me the rest of the way. Oh, spoiler warning for like everything. For every movie we talk about.
Pooka's a few years old.
It's probably safe to say we're gonna get into some stuff talking about. About some of the movies.
Oh yes.
Pooka was one of the Into the Dark movies on Hulu.
Yeah, on Hulu.
And that's a Blumhouse thing. I like Blumhouse. I like Blumhouse a lot. But they, like any studio, I guess, they have their ups and downs. And Into the Dark is definitely like hit or miss. And Pooka, for me, I don't know, it was a little bit of a miss for me. Because, like, for a movie that was so short, it felt so fucking long, dude. And I got very bored.
I think they did tease the Pooka too much.
And I told you that I kind of zoned out when I was watching it, like, cause I fell out. I was very bored with it. But then that ending hit, and I was like, holy shit!
It had a really good ending.
It had a very interesting ending that was like, all right, I'll give this another shot. And there's a sequel, Pooka Lives, that just came out like this year or like last year.
Yeah, I think there might be a third. There might be 2 or 3.
I think they're making a third if there's not.
Yeah.
So they're going all in on Pooka. So like, I'd give it another shot.
So I'll give it more in depth in here. So spoilers ahead.
You dug a little more.
I did. Okay, so like I remember the only notes I wrote down during this movie was I'm pretty sure, not 100%, but I'm pretty sure the kid that in the meme, the I Like Turtles kid, was in that movie. Because there's a scene where he's the Pooka and he's doing like an autograph signing thing with a bunch of kids. They're telling the Pooka what they want for Christmas, and everybody's like, I just want a Pooka. And then one kid comes up and is just like, I like turtles. And they like show him like say it like 3 times. So I feel like that was that kid. With the Pooka, I guess I kept trying to guess what they were trying to do with this movie, because it looked like, okay, are we doing split personalities? It seems like if he's in the Pooka costume, he's different than his normal self. That seems to be completely opposite of that. And I feel like they kept showing that with like...
I felt like it was something about the suit is making him like all demonic and doing all this.
Yeah, because there was that one scene where he was at his apartment lady's neighbor's house.
Right.
And he was over there and he heard the thumping and he was like, do you hear that? And she's like, I don't hear nothing. He's like, I gotta go back home real quick. And when he gets there, the Pooka's punching the walls. Yeah. And he like freaks out, and then it shows his hands, and his hands are all bloody. And he's like, ah. So I was like, yo, okay, that's what it's gotta be, something like that. But then like as that movie progresses, it gets weirder and weirder and weirder. I think one of my favorite scenes in it, like if you like to watch these movies in the dark, is when he's in his girlfriend's house and he hears like the cops outside and stuff and the police radio, and the whole house is just flashing red and blue, and then when he opens the windows and looks out, there's nothing out there. So that's where I started being like, well, what the hell is going on, man? Like, so then I started remembering like Donnie Darko. So I was like, is he like seeing into the future, seeing what he's gonna do as the Pooka? He's gonna murder all these fucking people. So then I started thinking that, and then by the time you get to that ending, and it's like he finally kills the Pooka that he thinks is, I don't even know at that moment. I thought maybe this is him from the future. He's gonna kill the Pooka and disappear, and he doesn't. So I'm like, shit. He must still kill these guys, and then it's like, nah, fam, like, that's not even it. Like, this is all just some crazy story in his head as he's laying out dying after a car accident, I feel like.
To see, because that's where I tuned back in. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, I'm going to have to go back. And the thing is, I might have just not been in the mood for it, because it's a slow movie. It is a slow burn. But that payoff, it's one hell of an ending.
There's little things in between it that was like...
the pacing could have been a little better.
Well, yeah, but like the little kid's birthday party when they was there and the two little boys was like fighting and the kid's like, everybody knows about your dad, and the kid was like all salty. But then when it gets to the end and you see like the main character is the dad and he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, like, because that's when I was like, because at that point I was like, oh, so everybody knew this guy that they thought was the stepdad. Mm-hmm. Is the actual dad. Like, he must be fucking crazy, nuts, something, like something must be wrong with him. I don't know what they're trying to portray here. And then it's like 10 minutes later you're like, oh, like all this, everything that's happened within this.
Like when it just made that switch, that's when I looked up and like, what happened? Like, and it goes back into like the real world and you realize that the whole movie was in this guy's head as he's dying. And I was like, oh no shit. And like all of the characters, including the one I was like down to, it was a real like Wizard of Oz moment. Down to like the paramedic was the guy who employed him as the Pooka.
Well, even
his neighbor was the chick driving in the car. Like I was like, oh okay, that's that was pretty cool.
Yeah, even then it was like that's one of those movies I really would like to go back now knowing the ending and rewatching, because I feel like they layered this all within this movie, because I remember like the old lady being like, you're too late at one moment, like there's not enough time, and it's like when he comes to and he's on the ground, she's just dying then, like, and her daughter, who's dead throughout the movie, is already dead in the passenger seat then too, which I thought was like really cool. And like the Pooka was repeating his wife's last words,
right? Yeah,
and then that when it was malfunctioning and shit. And
I would definitely, because I know what you're saying. If I was to go back and like, I would look for a lot more.
Yeah, it reminds me of like this story I read on Reddit one time where this guy was talking about being in a coma and living a life, and then he like saw a lamp that looked really weird, and when he focused on that lamp, that's when he came back into reality in the real time. And this movie kind of reminds me of that, because it's like everything's great for this guy until that Pooka starts repeating the last catchphrase, and then that in his reality, or in his made up reality, I guess, coma reality, that's what like everything glitches, and it's just all the Pookas have a glitch. They just say one line. It's weird. Nobody wants it, and it's like that causes him to like wake up. And I thought as far as it went for like a Hulu based movie, I thought it was really decent.
I mean, that's the thing about Blumhouse is like, even if their movies don't like, they're not a hit, like it's got cool shit in it. Like usually, like even like Fantasy Island came out at the beginning of this year.
Oh yeah. And, I wanted to see that actually.
That was one like I didn't expect much out of, and I dug it. Like there's some cool shit in it. Like I didn't think it was terrible.
No, I think.
Well, I guess we'll get into it more later. But Black Christmas was another Blumhouse one.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah. No, they got, like I said, they're really good. I've watched, I think probably more so. They're more like Halloween-y horror movies.
For sure.
But yeah, no, they're usually on point. Like I said, this one wasn't like cheesy on the graphics, I thought. Like it was, because there wasn't very much.
Yeah,
it's more of a what the fuck when you finally get to the end of it. So shit, I don't know.
I'm definitely curious to see the sequel.
I am too.
Now I'm thinking about it, I'm actually very curious as to what that's about.
I believe I looked the other day, and it's something
Don't
about.
Tell me.
I don't mean like I mean just of like a synopsis of what the movie is.
I just want to dive right in.
Well, okay.
I just want to dive right in.
That makes it easy. I gave this movie, I think, like probably about a 7 out of a 10.
Yeah.
I thought it was enjoyable enough. Yeah, like you said, pacing could have been different. They probably could have had a little bit more of a horror-esque to it. But as far as a Christmas theme thing goes, that one's pretty. For
cool. Sure. I would definitely put it on my Christmas watch list for next year, especially with as many things warrant a rewatch for next
It
year.
does.
Like I would definitely rewatch it next year. I'd add it to the.
And like I said, that's why I gave it a 7 out of 10 because I think
I'd probably go if we're doing this scale out of 10. If that's what's being decided right now.
being decided.
Probably 6.5. Just because I'd go back and re-rate it upon a second viewing, but with as bored as I got and just kind of zoned out of it, I'd say 6.5.
I think any movie that you get done with and you're like, oh man, that deserves another rewatch, so I can,
Oh yeah, I always think that makes a good movie.
That makes you made a good movie, Pooka guys. I don't know the directors. We should probably write this shit down for the future. Just shout those people out and be like, good job.
Actually, I do fucking know the director of Pooka. That was something I wanted to get into about this movie.
Oh.
It's Nacho Vigalondo. I hope I just said that name right. But I've seen a lot of his movies. He did, I believe he did a segment in ABCs of Death. He did one in, I think, VHS Viral, the third one, and his was pretty cool. And he's a pretty dope director. And this was actually very, of the things I had seen, this was very different. I actually think I just watched one of his movies earlier this year. I think it's called Open Windows. I believe he directed that. And it was, all done on a computer, kind of like that movie Unfriended.
Yeah.
And Elijah Wood was in it. It was actually really good. Sasha Grey.
Nice.
Yeah, it was.
More movies to check out.
There you go.
Maybe
2 recommendations.
Maybe we'll talk about them in the future.
It's Christmas, the giving season.
The giving season.